This week, our film critic Philip French reviews Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland for The Observer, while Avatar is up for Oscars this Sunday. Both films are 3D spectaculars, but do they really offer more to the moviegoer?
For me, it's all about immersion. Does 3D offer anything? And if it does, it has to be all about, are you more immersed in the story? Avatar, yeah, it really, really does, because it was created to be an immersive experience, and it was created to have 3D in every shot from the original vision of James Cameron 15 years ago. And he, of course, had to spend a decade out developing the technology. Don't get me wrong, the Avatar is not the best film in terms of story or in terms of characters, but you've never seen a film like it, and that's pretty special, you know, coming out now. In terms of Alice, it really doesn't offer anything. It's a real disappointment, because it was shot in 2D and it was conceived in 2D, and then you've got this 3D post-production happening, which will help you if you want to scare people by having a playing card chuck out a spear at the screen, and you'll get that reaction, but that's more shock as opposed to seduction, really, which is what I think 3D needs to be.
I think the general feeling about 3D movies on the Little White Lies forum is it's trying to figure out, is it here to stay? And if it is here to stay, does it represent a sea change in the way films are going to be made in the future? Or is it just another tool in the filmmaker's arsenal? And can you use 3D to paper over the cracks in an otherwise average movie? And I think that the consensus among the people who use the Little White Lies website is that you really can't. That 3D is just another tool, and that it needs to be treated as that. It's another tool in the filmmaker's arsenal, and it needs to be used judiciously, and it can't single-handedly make a bad film good.
Over the next decade, you'll see directors of all sort of levels, big name directors and independent directors, as the technology sort of becomes more cheaper. I think you'll see them much more experimenting with the technology. I'm not sure that every film will be in 3D, which is a kind of, I think, what people are perhaps expecting. You won't get certain films. You'll get computer generated films in 3D, and I think you'll get big event films in 3D. But until people and directors use the technology in a way that doesn't seem like a gimmick, I think it's going to be. I think it's probably got maybe a lifespan of maybe another 10 years.
I don't think that films are trying to get a reaction off the back of games. Mostly right now it looks like the gaming industry is trying to follow films. There's been a talk of lots of new 3D technologies this week, but they're all very early on. They're much far behind 3D TV. You've got to get the technology to be in people's homes before you can really do games. And so they're very early on, although there are talk of things. Gaming is just trying to piggyback off the success of 3D film, and it will work really well, maybe 5 years down the line. But right now, it's just not going to happen.
The studios are desperate for 3D to work, and the theatre exhibitors are desperate for 3D to work as well, because they feel embattled at the moment. They've seen falling ticket sales, they've seen the DVD revenue fall over the last few years, and they're under threat from emerging platforms. And they're not really seeing their audiences disappear, but they're seeing their audiences disperse. So they are desperate to sell you this idea that 3D is the future, because that is the way that they want to see it. But I think audiences are savvier than that. And I think most filmmakers don't really believe that either. I've spoken to a few filmmakers and posed them this question: do you think that 3D represents the future of film? And almost all of them are saying no. They're quite the opposite. They think the future of film isn't the $400 million Avatar-esque blockbuster. It's a return to more modestly budgeted, sort of $30, $40 million genre movies that have a built-in audience and a safer return.
It's definitely going to be difficult for other films to match Avatar. The expectations people are going to have now are going to be really high. However, if 3D correctly gets marketed and it can be worked into something that films just have rather than something on top of them, then that's not something that filmmakers should be so concerned about.